to everybody who has shown up. We'll go ahead and get started. I appreciate everybody for joining us tonight for our Jumpstart Germantown JUMPinar. And this is a couple times a month series that we host to have at-length discussions on a variety of topics in real estate development, mostly things that we don't have time to cover in our official training program, or topics of special request, and things that we see a need for in the Jumpstart community. And this is definitely something that there's a need for outside of our Jumpstart loan program. So many of you, if you've gone through the program or not, are familiar with the financing that Jumpstart can provide, and sort of the scale and size of projects that we're typically looking at. But there's a whole lot of options outside of that, and it can be an intimidating and confusing world to enter into, especially when you're used to such a hands-on lender like Jumpstart. So tonight's discussion is going to be about financing for bigger projects. So I'm sure we'll talk about some general financing knowledge, about real estate development as a whole, but we'll take a kind of specific focus on those commercial mixed-use properties, or the bigger than triplex or quadplex developments that people are interested in, things that Jumpstart necessarily wouldn't be able to finance. But even so, you don't have to use Jumpstart as a lender, right? Even if it's a smaller project. So hopefully we'll gain some knowledge about what options there are for you in that sense. Our guest is going to be Hurley Desper, and he is from the Community First Fund, which we'll hear more about from him. But I just want to thank everybody for showing up. And one more time, or actually, I don't think I said this yet, but we'll have a Q&A at the end of tonight's discussion. So in around a half an hour or 40 minutes, however long it takes us to get through what we've got planned, we'll switch to answering your questions. So you can go ahead and submit those using the Q&A function on Zoom. We'll keep the chat closed, but anything you want to ask or participate in the discussion, just go ahead and put in the Q&A. And the last plug, just for Jumpstart, we have our training program is open and accepting applications for winter 2023. It'll be held in person at our office. So be sure to go to our website, jumpstartgermantown.com, and apply there if you haven't taken the training already. And also, we are accepting loan applications. So go ahead and go to our loan program page and read through the guidelines and terms, and submit an application if your project sounds like a good fit. But yeah, okay, that's all my housekeeping, and I'll introduce our guest here. Again, his name is Hurley Desper, and it's a pleasure to have him here tonight, and I'm excited for the discussion. I'll go ahead and let him introduce himself, and why don't you tell us about Community First Fund as well? How's it going,
All
Hurley?
right. Good. Thank you for the invite. I appreciate this time. I'm going to set my timer because I'm a bit chatty, so I'm going to be honest with you guys.
All right, I like it. It sounds good.
I'm going to put my timer on now. All right. So again, my name is Hurley Desper. I'm the Vice President of Commercial Real Estate for Community First Fund. Most of you may not know what Community First Fund is. Community First Fund was known as a CDFI. That's a Community Development Financial Institution. Now, that institution is set in place to help Black and Brown investors find access to money they otherwise would not have access to when going to the traditional bank or credit union. A lot of times what we find that you have certain guidelines that the credit union or your traditional bank, they're going to adhere to. They're going to say, hey, look, this is the level that you have to reach. Let's just throw a number out. Let's say you need a 680 score. Here are the guidelines that you must maintain and you have to hit in order to get a loan. With us, if you have some dings, you have some troubles, if you have some issues on credit, we're going to ask for a letter of explanation. You're going to hear things like LOE or LOX. So that's a letter of explanation. That's allowing you to be able to tell your story on why your issues or what things you kind of fell short on. Everyone's hit a pitfall. Everyone's had a collection at some point in time in life. Everyone's had a late pay or a slow pay. So we're going to give you the opportunity to be able to explain that. And we're not just going to write you off because of that. So we're going to give you a chance. We're not so much geared towards the actual credit score, more than we are geared towards the actual credit story. So we want to understand who you are as the borrower, and to be able to learn who you are and what you are, and to be able to partner with you to be able to get deals done. So that's a little bit about the CDFI.
Great. And Hurley, why don't you tell me about your background and sort of what you do as on a day-to-day basis?
Oh, God. I just literally rushed here. I've been in meeting after meeting today. What I work on is primarily low-income housing tax credits, affordable housing throughout the city of Philadelphia. A lot of the high-rise buildings you see, and also senior living as well. So we were just in a conference last week in Harrisburg. because we were just trying to work on some of the things that were going to be coming out and rolling out as far as tax credits concerned with PHFA. There's a 9% and a 4%. There's also grants out there that most people may not may not know anything about. There's RACP grants, there's affordable housing grants. There are a number of different things out there that can help you to be able to get into these larger projects. What I've been doing today is I've met with several different groups. New Kensington Housing Development. I met with them today just to talk about pre-development funds. So they need about $1.1 million in pre-development funds. That's some of the things that stops a lot of the investors from getting started, is not having those pre-development funds. That means your architectural drawings, your soil samples, all the legwork that goes into it before the actual project takes off, before the funding comes into fruition. Now, the great part about how you can structure and write that loan is you can actually, once that money goes in, and whatever money you do put out, we can help you to actually recoup those costs if you paid it out of pocket. So that's another way, but that's neither here nor there. But the deals that I'm going to talk about today, we're going to talk about getting you to the next step from where Jumpstart leaves off. So we're going to talk about $500,000 on up. We're going to talk about some mixed use. We're going to talk about commercial mixed use, meaning you're looking at a storefront at the bottom and maybe a couple of apartments at the top. We're going to talk about debt service. We're going to talk about how the banks look at debt service and how they want that to actually, the mortgage and the rent, you want 1% higher than the actual mortgage itself in order for the debt service. So in that case, it doesn't really play a part into what your income is. It's really how this actual property has a great return on investment.
Yeah. Awesome.
Just to give you a little background. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, Hurley, I think I dropped off there for a second, and but I'm back on now. Sorry, my internet's
okay. That's all right. That's all right.
Yeah, I'm back on. Thanks for that great introduction, and I'm glad you were able to tell people about Community First Fund and point them your way. We'll be sure to get any links or resources from you so we can send that out in a follow-up. The last thing I wanted to ask about your intro is just what development projects you've completed yourself. Have you worn the developer hat in some projects?
Oh, quite often. My very first project was something I started out, and I really didn't know what I was doing or what I was getting into. I wish I had someone like Jumpstart to kind of hold my hand and help me through the process. Kind of jumped out there, bought a project from the sheriff's sale on a tax lien for about $8,200. Sight unseen, thought it was a great idea, got this project. Got into this house, broke the door down, and it was just trash and just dead animals everywhere in this house. So paid about, say, $5,000, get the house cleaned out. Then went through and had it gutted, redid it, dumped about $58,000 into it. And at that time, I was a mortgage broker. So I was able to finance a loan, pay the person's closing costs, and sell the house for about $131,000. So that was that very first nightmare. The biggest thing I can tell you is through that, I went through about 4 different contractors. And in that nightmare, you just don't really have any idea what these people are all about in most cases. People say they do great work. They tell you, but really you need to vet your contractors. You need to really get referrals on your contractors. You need to really go out and see the contractors work. A contractor will grab a cell phone and say, hey, look at these pictures, I do great work. No, you need to go out and touch and feel and see that work is actually solid based upon that contractor. Yeah. And then again, referrals really count for a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure, Hurley, we could have a whole nother JUMPinar just on contractor vetting. I know it's extremely important and something that every speaker brings up that I know is important. So, okay. Let's move on. And I think you started doing this a minute ago, but introducing tonight's topic, what sorts of projects we're talking about. Just quickly, I'll give the rundown on Jumpstart's max loan requirements. So, for a project that exceeds $300,000 in the total project cost, that's the purchase price plus whatever your construction budget is. Jumpstart wouldn't be able to finance that just per our loan program, requirements and our lenders' rules. And also, it might be outside our lending boundary. So as you know, we lend in Germantown and also other middle neighborhoods throughout Philadelphia, and soon we'll go citywide and anywhere in the city. But if your project falls outside that boundary or exceeds the total project cost that we can fund, or is a commercial mixed use or bigger project that maybe just doesn't really fit with the way our loan works. We're going to be talking about those sorts of projects and where you can get financing for those. So Hurley, why don't you jump right into your presentation, and I'll let you take it here for a little while, and run through what you've got, and then I'll let you know if there's any specific questions that come up.
Right. Now, I don't know the speed of your audience, so I just kind of give it to you as vanilla and just try to ramp up a little bit as I go, okay?
That sounds great.
All right, I'm gonna share the screen now. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Hurley.
All right, my pleasure. All right, can you see that okay?
Yep, I can see it now. I also see the menu around. I don't know if you want to share it or, okay, cool.
Yeah, trying to clean that up a little bit, if it allows me to.
It all works. No worries.
There we go. There we go. Don't worry about it. Okay, so I'll just double click on this and we should be good.
Let's see.
Hold on 1 second.
It works.
There we go. Oh, it doesn't want to work for me. Okay, so the biggest thing I tell anybody is a person who's never made a mistake has never tried anything new. I say that to say you're going to make mistakes throughout this process. And no matter how much you think you know, you're going to make mistakes. And you may even make the same mistake and not even realize it's taking place. So we're going to dive in. So why real estate investing? Most people are diving into real estate because they're looking for another stream of income. They're looking for something that just pretty much is going to help them either get into retirement, get them out of their day-to-day. Real estate can do a lot of things for you. And if you look at this actual screen itself, you see real estate, you see stocks, you see bonds, you see savings. The one thing that stays consistent in this model is real estate. Real estate is always growing. Even though we're kind of heading into a recession right now, it's not guaranteed that we're going to hit it. And you're seeing some values are probably dropping. You got to understand one thing. Those values are going to increase and go back to where they were and become stable no matter what. That's one thing you can guarantee yourself. Real estate normally in a average market increases 6% on average. And this market lately, it's been increasing 21 to 22%. So it's been a great return on investment. So that's one of the reasons why most of us get into real estate. All right. Then there's certain real estate that we won't touch on. I won't get into REITs right now. This is just another way that you can invest on the open market, just to look at a couple of options that will help you to not have to leverage so much money down, but allows you to invest in commercial real estate. For example, look at Public Store, you look at Simons. Simons is one of the largest mall retailers in the East Coast right now. They own just about everything. All right, but we won't touch on that today. Let's dive in. Let's just talk about the actual the 5 topics I have. One of which is we're going to talk about deal structure. We're going to talk about financing, underwriting, collateral, and the exit strategy. So when you look at the actual deal structure itself, you're looking at the actual most important things. You're looking at how this deal is structured. Does it make sense? Okay, one of which, does the purchase price make sense? Does it work with the return on investment? Does your construction budget not exceed what you're trying to do? And then you got to understand, what is my active repair value? What is that property going to be worth after it's actually completed? All right. I tell anyone, I give you just a broad example. Purchase price is $100,000. Your construction budget is $50,000. You're hoping that your active repair value is at least $200,000 because most lenders are going to look at 65% to 70% in most cases of what's considered the active repair value. Those are the things and the formulas you need to understand to maximize your return on investment. Okay, that's going to help you to understand how much money you need and what will cost me each month. And those are some of the things that you heard Derek was talked about earlier. Just what that monthly payment was going to be, and some of the things where people were actually worried about, rates increasing right now. Right. And also, you really got to consider the lender's fees too. Right. And closing costs. You got to couple all those things in, figure those things out, and make sure it all fits into and it works with each component to make sure you can cover everything you're looking to do.
And Hurley, can I ask you something? In reference to those sorts of like loan terms and fees and guidelines and stuff, I know with Jumpstart's loan, it's kind of like set in stone. Like we finance at 85% loan to cost, and that's kind of our standard. Or our developer's equity is pretty standard, and the closing costs, we estimate at a hard value. So I want to ask: are other lenders flexible in those terms? Can they, be willing to negotiate?
Yes.
Because
Yep.
I want to prepare people that just because one lender does it one way doesn't mean they're not going to be
No,
favorable.
it's definitely not set in stone. So here's a tricky way to do it too. And let's say, for instance, the investor has another piece of property. Now we can cross collateralize.
Mhm.
All right. Let's say the person doesn't have, say, the 20% to put down, but they have 10%. We
Mhm.
can cross collateralize the other 10% inside that property and put a junior lien against that property. That helps that person get into that actual deal itself.
Yeah.
Then there's some lenders out there that will do 90% loan to cost. So the loan to cost is pretty much a purchase plus construction times 90%. So that helps as far as the down payment is concerned. But yeah, there's some other ideas out there, and there's other lenders out there. So I won't say their names, and I don't know how they're doing this, but doing some very risky lending where they're doing 100% of purchase and construction money.
Yeah. And how do you suggest people like learn about those what those numbers are going to be? Is this a call the bank and spend an hour on the phone with the person, or read their page online? What strategies do you have for people?
Now, what I recommend is, and I'm going to go over the formula now. Like I said, you take your purchase price. Again, we'll use the round number. Say purchase price is $100,000.
Mhm.
We know the construction budget is 50,000. We know adding those numbers is 150.
Mhm.
Take 150 times it by 90%. That's going to give you what your loan to cost is.
Mhm.
Now, you take that solid number of 150 and minus it from the actual loan to cost. That's going to tell you what your down payment is.
Mhm.
All
So
right.
you can really like structure this deal kind of in your head. You don't even really need to put
Yeah.
numbers, right?
Yeah. You can kind of play around with it. You can look at it, pull out a calculator and figure it all out. It's really, once you've done it several times and you've seen the math in front of you, it starts to click and it starts to make sense. The biggest thing I will tell anybody is, okay, you have that part, but also understand, what is that property worth when it's complete?
Mhm.
That is one of the things that, any investor is going to talk to you about. They're really going to really talk to you about really understanding the market and where you're actually picking up this property, and understanding, what's your exit strategy? What are you doing? Are you refinancing out? Are you selling this particular property? Every investor wants to know that you have a plan to get in and out of this deal. And they really want to know that you're getting out of this deal in a timely fashion. Granted, we're going to give you 12 months, but we're hoping that you can pretty much wrap this thing up in 6 to 8 months, because it may take you some time for as a refi, and it may take you some time for us selling it. In this market right now, things are not selling as fast as they were, when the summertime rolled around. So right now, rates are extremely high. When you're looking at DSCR programs, long-term financing to a 30-year fix, I mean, you're seeing some rates 8, 9, 10%, even with low loan to values. So you just got to be mindful to make sure you do have a good and solid plan in place. And then you might have some people that are bankable. So if you're bankable, guess what? You can go to your credit union. You can go to your TD banks. You can go to your Citizens. You can go to those places, Truist, with this. But you got to make sure your tax returns are in the proper place. You got to make sure your adjusted gross income meets that requirement. So the DTI is where it needs to be.
Mhm.
Those are some of the most important things about that. So it's not impossible. It can be done. And my particular company right now, based upon our capital magnet funds right now, we're doing rates 5.5, 6, depending on the actual project itself. So even though the market has kind of taken a bad turn, I mean, we're still below prime. Prime jumped 50 basis points today.
Mhm.
We're still below prime today. So
Yeah,
there are options out there.
gotcha.
And you yourself, in our conversation, your rates are right there. I mean, you
Yeah.
guys are a great option for a first time or a seasoned investor.
Yeah, yeah. So, and what Hurley's referring to is we were talking before this about our interest rate just dropped down. It was 11 point, I think it was 11.6 or something close to there just a couple of weeks ago, and then we secured some new funds and are able to pass those pass our discounts on that interest rate down onto to you guys as loan applicants. So now it's 8.96, and like Hurley, maybe I'm sure people are kind of maybe new to the world of hard money and might not understand what that interest rate, how that interest rate is different than like a 30-year mortgage interest rate, and
Oh,
sort of like when people think of interest rate, they might think the 6% 30-year bank loan, but it's a little different with hard money, right? Like
it is.
what does that percentage mean for a developer, and why is it so much higher?
Well, I would tell you this. Let's say Derek is the person I'm buying my money from. We'll use Derek for this example. I'm buying my money at maybe at 6.5, 7% from Derek.
Mhm.
I have investors on the back end as well. So I have to buy my money 6.5, 7 from him. In order for me to make money, I need to raise that rate. So I'm getting wholesale from Derek, but I'm turning around, I'm going retail with my actual rate. So I may have to charge 9, 10, or whatever percent in order, to make my money, depending on the deal itself. It also depends on the loan to cost and the person's experience. Most people don't realize, the game that hard money lenders will play, and I'm not going to say it's a game, but it's the reality of it. If you have experience, you're rewarded for experience. You're not so much going to be, rewarded for the credit score. You're being rewarded for the experience, how you've gotten in and out of that deal. There are going to be charts that shows, a person has zero experience to 3 years. Okay, that rate may be 12%. Then you may get another chart right below it. That grid may show a person has 3 to 5 deals under the belt in the last 3 years. So they want to see that you have a history of completing these deals successfully. And they will do the research to see if you've actually maximized it and done those things. But again, you are rewarded based upon that. And I say that bucket of 3 to 5 may get you a rate around 8 or 9%. And it also lowers your points. The points are your cost to actually do the deal. So the lender's still going to make money on the deal itself. Hard money, when I first started in the game, it was 15% and 5 points out the gate. No questions asked, interest only, take it or leave it. We're not worried about your credit. What do you want to do?
Right.
Now it's a little more structured now. You don't realize it, but hard money is moving in the same direction as your traditional lenders, because these particular deals are being pulled together and they're being sold on Wall Street.
Mm-hmm.
So they got to make sure that, this person, this investor fits this bucket.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not fitting inside that bucket, I can't keep that. I got to have that deal set on my books. And the longer that deal's on my books, the less money I make.
Mm-hmm.
But if I can sell that deal, recoup it, and get my money working and churning again, then that's a really good deal.
Great.
All right.
And Hurley, I know we're don't have all the time in the world, but I want to ask you a couple more questions here on this slide. Under underwriting for that credit score, most banks want to see a 660 score. So can you just talk about sort of the decision you have to make of when you feel good about your credit? Because I know like a lot of people are in that barrier where they might have a 650 or a 645 and they're kind of right on the cusp, and there's one charge against their credit that's really holding them back, and it might take a year for them to clear it. Should that prevent them from applying for the loan or seeking financing? No,
it shouldn't. But here's the thing. Even though you may have that score that's slightly below, there are compensating factors out there that banks will look at. They'll look at how long you've been in the business. They'll look at how many deals you've done. They'll also, here's the biggest thing that everybody wants to see, liquidity.
Mm-hmm.
If you have liquidity, cash is king. You've heard that term over and over again, cash is king. It definitely is king. There are deals that a person can have a 650 score and they've done 4 deals in the last 3 years, and they've got $60,000, $70,000 in the bank. Yeah, I want to work with that guy. I'll take the exception on that 650 score, and I'll work with that person because I know that they probably maxed out credit cards or maxed out something or a line of credit, and you can see it when you look at the credit story that they've tried to pay their way through to get the deal done.
Right.
Now, it's a different story if you open up and you see a guy's got a ton of judgments and collections and things of that nature. That's a different story. Totally. But a person trying to pay their way and get through it, that's a solid investor.
Yeah, and I really liked what you said up front about the credit story, and it's more about just a number. It's about what your history is and how you can justify it and explain it. And we take the same approach, and it's good to hear a common thought.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
The next thing I want to ask is about that no seasoning requirements. Could you explain what that means for people who have reserves in their bank account?
Yeah, so you're not looking at seasoning on the account, meaning that money could show up today. At what time is it now? That money can hit the account at 7:26.
Right.
We only need to see that money in there today. We don't need to see 30, 60 day. Traditional banks want to see 30, 60, and most cases want to see 90. They want to see that you haven't had an emergency need of those funds. On the hard money or private equity sector, no need. One day season.
Right, and seasoning, correct me if I'm explaining this wrong, but it's just like proving that you have the money but not using it and kind of just holding on to it for a little while, right?
Correct. Yeah. Letting it sit without any use, without money coming in and out of that account, pulling on it here and there and using it back and forth. Right.
Okay, well, I'm going to let you move on because I see some questions coming in the chat.
No worries. The one thing I wish somebody would have told me when I first started in this was, and I'm going to share this with you, and you guys can do what you want with this information. You see where it says collateral and it talks about single families, 2 to 4 units, duplex, triplex, and quadplexes. I will recommend to anyone, if you're buying a single family, and I'm gonna tell you why I'm saying this, flip your single family. I've owned 26 properties. I've done 4 new constructions in my time. I will tell you right now, flip the single family, hold on to the 2 to 4 units. The reason I say that is because you see how COVID hit us during this time in the last in 2 years. If you have a person that has a single family, you're renting. If that person goes down for COVID for whatever reason, you're stuck and you're on the hook for that mortgage. But if you have a 2 to 4 unit, let's say if you got a triplex, and maybe the odds are with you. Okay, one person goes down and not paying their rent. The other 2 people are picking up and they're able to pay the actual mortgage itself. So you're only losing mortgage from that end, but your mortgage is covered. You're not out of pocket for that. And then on top of that, you'll find that multi-units increase in equity a lot faster than a single family. For whatever reason, they just increase, and it's always a cash cow whenever you can use it. I just recommend, in my personal experience, keeping the multi-units as rentals and flipping the single families. All right. All right. So we're going back to, I got a lot of acronyms here. We talked about loan to cost. This is the amount that the lender will finance. So we talked about that. That was that 100,000, that 50,000 times the 90% part. And then we have the ARV, the after repair value. Whether you're doing a residential or a commercial deal, everyone wants to know what the after repair value is. It is essential to understand your market and do your research, and not so much just rely on what the bank is going to tell you or what a realtor is going to tell you, but really get out and do your research too. And then you also have the loan to purchase price. That's the percent of the loan to the purchase price itself. So when you look at that, it's the percent of that actual loan. All right. Then you have, and I can get into that in a little more detail if you guys have questions later. Then you have loan to value. Everyone's heard loan to value. So it's the percent of the loan we finance against the actual home itself. And then rehab budget. Just to put it simple, it's the scope of work. It's defined as something you need to really work on and have it detailed as possible. Then you've also heard of down payment. All right, that's the percent of the purchase price that you're going to pay out of pocket. Really important to a lot of lenders. Then there's your regular purchase price. This is the price that you're going to negotiate with the seller. And you see the example down there where I give you the example of the loan to cost and how the breakdown is. I don't know if you guys want to take a picture of that. It helps you to give that breakdown using those round numbers there. So the purchase price is 100,000. Your rehab budget is 50,000. So that 150 times 85, that 85 is the loan to cost that Derek was talking about a little while ago. That loan to cost will get you the actual loan amount. You go back up top, LTC. This is the loan amount that the lender will finance. Mm-hmm. That's 127.5. Now you do the math. You minus 127.5 from the 150, that gives you 22.5. That's your down payment. That tells you the amount that you're going to have to bring to the table. But that's minus closing costs. That's minus points. That's minus title. That's minus transfer tax. That's minus all those other fees. Mm-hmm. So just keep in mind, that's the down payment. So understand that before you get into it. Understand your bank account before you get into it as well. Because some people that go out and they see a project say, oh, I can get that deal for $285,000. It's a great deal on the house because it's the after repair value is $700,000. But does it fit your budget?
Yeah, great.
You have to understand.
Yeah, Hurley, I love that little calculation because I think that's like a huge question that people have is finding out how much money they need to get started. And everybody's like, it's sort of like a mystified thing with some lenders, I'm sure, who might not be so upfront and clear about their terms and stuff, but you can figure this out yourself. I love that there's, you should be constantly aware of how much money you're going to need to get started on this project. And if you can do that, you can sound a lot more competitive when you're talking to lenders, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing is because you'll find that a lot of lenders want you to be what's called first money in too. Right. So you may pay all that money at the closing table, but they're expecting you to get that rehab started on your own. Right. So if your rehab budget says the first draw is 30,000, guess what? They're expecting you to drop 30,000 after closing to get the rehab started. They're going to come out and do the inspection. Then they're going to reimburse you, and then so forth and so on. Okay. Right.
So Hurley, would you recommend that people, first find out how much money they have, and then kind of like find a deal that fits, what their size is, or do you think they should look for deals, calculate this number, and then go from there? It's just like, I guess it's a personal decision, sort of, right?
Yeah, my opinion is, I think you need to understand what's in your bank account, what you can afford to spend.
Mhm.
Also, you want to keep a cushion because, like I said, you don't know what's going to happen with that actual contractor. You definitely want to have some contingency built in place, and you don't want to, spend up all your liquidity on one deal. I just told a guy the other day. He said, "Oh, look, I got $100,000." I said, "Look, we're not going to spend $100,000. We're going to try to work this out where we cross collateralize one of your properties
Mhm.
and maybe use 50,000 of that money." We
Mhm.
never know what'll happen. We never know if you're going to run into an issue. Okay, stack pipe may go. There may be some issues in the street with the plumbing. There may be mold. There may be a bad joist. Guess what? You didn't budget. You can account for that because you did a walkthrough. You don't know until you start pulling back walls and ripping up things that things will go bad. So I say for your first deal, if you can partner with someone and you can kind of keep your liquidity short, keep it short. If you have to do it and you want to do it on your own, just be mindful of what you're able to spend and what you're comfortable spending. And don't feel like your deal has to be, an $80,000 return on investment right out of the gate.
Mhm.
Slow walk it, gain the experience. The experience is more important than the money that you make
Mhm.
because the experience is going to keep you from making mistakes and losing money in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. Thank
All
you.
right.
Yep.
Yep. And if you can see this, I know the font's a little small. So if you look at the breakdown of this one, this is just looking at using myself as an example. I've got 5 flips. I purchased at 250 with a rehab budget of 75. And I know my total cost is 325. And my active repair is 425. This gives you a breakdown at 90% loan to cost and a 70% loan to value and a loan to purchase at 85%. It shows you what my loan amount is. It shows you what the lender is going to fund at closing. It's showing you what's going to be held back. It shows you the rate. It also shows you the LTC if you look down. The LTC is at 88%, not even at 90 yet. The LTV is falling under the bucket at 68, and the loan to purchase is at 85. Look at the borrower's investment. It's 37,500. Now look at the closing costs. All right, you're already at 48,000 in that. Also, we didn't talk about, they also want to see liquid reserves. You see the amount of reserves you still need to have after you spend your down payment money?
Mhm.
You've already spent $48,000 out of pocket for a deal of this size, but you still need to have almost $29,000 in liquidity in the bank after you spent that money. So the total liquidity to close you're looking at is almost $67,000. Now, also keep in mind, liquidity is not money you're going to spend. Liquidity is money the bank and your lender wants to see in your account so you can pay your actual mortgage payment each month. That's what liquidity is for. Okay.
Great.
And we're looking at underwriting. Underwriting is, you look at these steps. These are the processes that your loan is going to go through. It's going to go through, okay, it took the application. Once the application is done, it goes in loan process. Loan process is going to look and make sure all the docs are in place. It's going to go to underwriting. Underwriting is going to issue out a list of conditions, whatever they may be. It's going to be conditionally approved. You'll get a letter. You'll clear those conditions. Your loan will get ready for clear to close. You'll go to closing. You'll pay those fees. Then the loan funds. Now, that's where the real work happens. The real work happens once that loan funds. Now you have to get in and get the job done. You got to figure out. And the other thing is in Philadelphia, some people like to cut corners. I don't know if everyone gets permits all the time. I can't say that I did in every deal. I cut corners. Just be mindful. And I went over my time. I told you I got a little chatty here.
No worries. You're great. You're great. You can keep on going for another 5-10 minutes if you want. Yeah.
All right. So let's just go back to that then. So you understand, because you're in the thick of things when the loan funds. You got to make sure, hey, I've done my due diligence. I'm ready to go. Let's fire this thing up full steam ahead. You got to make sure your contractor is not taking on too many jobs. I had that happen to me. Contractor took on a job, took on my job, wasn't where I needed to be. And I didn't have a clear plan, even when I didn't have a construction budget and a clear plan to understand what my expectations were from this person. So another thing you really want to do, you want to really have a contract in place with your contractor, have a clear, concise budget. And it's 3 phases or 5 phases. Make sure, hey, look, you're going to do this, 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 and this for this money, and I'm expecting that. Period. No questions, ifs, ands, or buts about it. All right. And then we didn't talk a lot about collateral, but collateral is just pretty much the asset. The bank is really hinging and hanging their hats on this piece of collateral, whether it's going to be cross collateralized to help, offset the amount of money that you don't have to bring to the table. But they're using this money to secure an actual deal that you're bringing to them to make sure, one, when they've got an appraisal done, they're going to do an appraisal on the as-is value, and they're going to do an appraisal on the active repair value. And they're going to use your construction budget to make sure the active repair value meets that need before they actually approve the deal.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Then here are 4 ways the investor makes money. One of the most essential pieces are, all right, you have real estate appreciation, which everything did in the summertime. You have cash flow income through, multi-units or single families. You have, real estate related income. Those are things, I will tell you, real estate related income are things like, okay, I've got a garage that's not a part of the actual lease, but I lease that out third party, or I have a parking lot and I have some storage area. Those are real estate related things. And then you have ancillary real estate, such as laundromats and things of that nature. There's several ways you can go with that. And that goes into the part where we talked about the mixed use properties, and you've got a business on the bottom, and then you have multi units at the top. I wish someone would have told me years ago to get into commercial real estate, because the minimum lease on a commercial real estate is 10 years. 10 years. When you're dealing with residential, it's yearly, and then it becomes month to month. A 10-year lease, I can count on. I can send my kids to college on that,
Right. Right. Yeah. It's a whole nother level of dealing you're doing. Yeah.
It is. It is. And then just to tell you more, what is my exit strategy? How am I getting out of this loan? What is my plan? You ever hear a realtor tell you when you bought your primary home, hey, don't use your credit, don't buy anything? Same thing applies here. If you're doing some investing, the only thing that you're going to invest in at that point in time is, how am I getting out of this deal? Am I selling it? Am I refinancing to hold it? Know that plan going in. Doesn't mean it can't change, but it needs to change for a very good reason. The exit strategy is how you're actually going to pay the lender back. Because if you keep the good rapport and you pay that lender back in a timely fashion, when you bring your next deal, you best believe underwriting is going to be a lot softer the next time you do something. And they're going to work with you a lot easier. And rates are going to improve. Loan to cost is going to improve. There are going to be some exceptions may be made on the loan to value, whereas though, okay, the guideline says at a 660 score, I can only give you 65%. You know what? The appraisal didn't come back the way we thought. We can bump it up a little bit. Give them 68. We're okay. Those are the types of movements that the lender will make because they're comfortable with you. So knowing your exit strategy and making sure you're keeping a great relationship with your lender is highly important, and I recommend it. All right. All right. Any questions at all in regards to anything?
Yeah, thank you so much, Hurley. That was really, really great. I know we could have probably spent a lot more time going through some of that stuff, but maybe we'll just maybe we'll have to have you back, which I don't, I'm not opposed to. Maybe we could do an in-person event or something next year.
Definitely.
But yeah, that was really excellent, and I appreciate you setting up that presentation for us. I wanted to ask, could you send, or you already sent this over to me actually? So I'll distribute this to everybody. I know a couple people in the questions were asking about that, and yeah, I think we'll move right into the questions in the Q&A here. Actually, before we get to that, I'll read my questions because I had a couple that I prepared for you.
Go for it.
Yeah, so the first one is just sort of, it's a little bit of a broader question, but I wanted to get your take on it. And it's really that other lenders, outside of Jumpstart aren't going to be so handholdy and involved in your training and your education of how to be a real estate developer. How can people, and maybe people leaving the Jumpstart program, present themselves as knowledgeable, qualified potential borrowers to banks and investors? I think it's a lot about understanding terms and kind of knowing your position. But I want to hear your take. What can someone do to really make themselves seem like they're ready for that next step? You know what I mean?
One of which, having a good construction budget together, having a detail, whether you're going to get it from the actual contractor or you're going to develop yourself. Also understand what your return on investment is going to be, looking at your purchase price, making sure that makes sense. Leaning on an investor, and you can still use seller's assist. And that's what most people don't talk about when you're doing deals like this. Seller's assist still exists in deals like this. Understanding that ARV, we talked about that after repair value. Going in, okay, this is my purchase price, this is my budget. Being detailed and building a contingency inside of that budget lets that investor know, I'm planning for the future, I'm planning ahead. And then again, going back, and I'm circling back again, that after repair value and then that exit strategy, and knowing those things are important to any investor that you work with. Knowing and being clear and concise about what you say, and not going back and forth about your decisions on what you're doing. Right. And then, it also helps your paperwork is clear and concise. They ask you for a document, give them the document they're asking for. Don't give them more than what they asked for. Don't overanalyze anything. They ask for a letter of explanation. write down and ask questions about what exactly do you want me to say in this letter of explanation. Write
Mm-hmm.
it out exactly as they're asking for. If they ask for a blue pen, give them a blue pen. Don't give them a red pen.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Don't overanalyze anything. Again, just be clear, concise about those three things.
Mm-hmm.
Purchase price, budget, after repair value. The biggest thing is I'm going to tell you, every investor wants to make sure you know what you're doing with that budget, because I'm lending you money in phases.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to make sure you're going to come back to me and say, I'm short, and then you don't have enough money in the bank, and then you're looking at the investor, oops, what do I do now?
Right. Right. Yeah, I think that's huge. And that's definitely one of the time or things that we spend the most time on with Jumpstarters is just working on that construction budget, kind of
Yeah.
explaining to them why, they could put numbers down that make sense, but their scope of work doesn't line up. And I'm not really 100% sure, how many is there, is that a half bath? Is that a full bath? Is that going to be a finished basement or an unfinished basement? And I think like what you said exactly is huge. Just know how to prepare a construction budget uh, like limit the amount of questions that they're going to have to ask. You know what I mean? I think
Come
that,
prepared.
yeah,
And definitely do your walkthrough with your contractor. If something doesn't make sense, question it. Don't leave it to this person being the expert.
yeah,
Use your better judgment. If something doesn't sound right, question it, ask about it, talk about it. And don't be afraid to walk away from a deal either.
right.
Don't feel like, you know what, I got to do this, I got to rush. No, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
When you rush into a mistake. Take your time, make sure it feels right to you, make sure the numbers make sense to you. I mean, if the numbers are close, back down. You want to give yourself about a 10% cushion on things, back it down a little bit. Make sure it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, don't do it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. And my last question before we move on to the audience questions, and feel free to type those in if you have any last minute ones, is about draw requesting and how funds are dispersed to borrowers. So I know with Jumpstart, we have like 4 draw inspections. We come out, check out what work you've done, and you fill out a form, and we transfer you the money. Is it as simple when you're working with a $500,000 project or something, or is there different nuances to different lenders?
It depends. Some lenders allow you to do a picture type of a draw, meaning they'll let you take pictures, and there's a software they use allow you to take pictures to actually show the work was complete.
Mm-hmm.
There's other lenders that will charge you up front at closing. And like my construction budget says I have 5 draws. Okay, there's 125 or 150 per draw, and that's built into your closing costs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you call them, they send the person out that did your appraisal that's actually going to do the inspection work. They send the inspection back to the group, and then they wire the money to your account.
Mm-hmm.
If you can limit this to 3 to 4 draws, I highly recommend you limit it to 3 or 4 draws. The reason I say this is because you may have to spend some money out of your pocket too, but what it does is it controls how fast your project's actually going to move. And that first actual draw, okay, I've got windows, framing, doors, floors, roof, all those things. Okay, great. I got that money. I'm good to go. I knocked those things out. And you're holding a contractor to an actual schedule itself that they have to adhere to. So yeah. I recommend that.
Great. Cool. All right. Well, let's move on to these listener questions. And the first one here comes from Brian. And he was just asking, before Hurley leaves, can we get his information? So I'm sure people want to reach out to you and continue, asking questions or want to know about Community First Fund. So how can people reach you, Hurley?
I can, if I'm able to type in here, I think.
Yeah. So you can, if you type it in chat, it might come to me and then I'll resend it. But otherwise, we can put it in the follow-up email tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll put my email address in there.
Great.
All
right, cool. So that, yeah, for some reason it only goes to me here. I'm sending it back to everybody. H. Desper, Community First Fund. Great, and I'll send that out again in an email tomorrow in case anybody missed it. Ashton Gage is asking, do you deal with newbie developers? And I'm assuming they mean Community First Fund.
Yeah, we do. We don't have a criteria whether you're new or not. We don't look at it that way. We're a nonprofit. Our money comes from banks. It comes from grants. It comes from federal and state funding. No, we do not look at your tenure as an investor at all.
Great. Awesome. And same goes for Jumpstart. So next question again comes from Brian. He says, what's the DSCR you're typically seeing right now? I guess definitely
Depends
depends
on
on
the
the
rate.
unit, right? Yeah, yeah.
It depends on the rate and what you're charging for rent. So the DSC, the debt service rate is looking at the rate of the actual loan amount itself. And it's also looking at the loan amount, and it's looking at what you're collecting for rents.
Mhm.
There are a couple ways that your debt service can be calculated. It can be calculated through a 1007 that the appraiser does and tells you what the market rents are. And then it actually can be done through a lease. So I say the way you control the cost is through the lease. So you're creating the lease, you take your first month in security deposit. We have to go by that lease. We can show proof in the bank account that this money has been deposited. We have to go by the lease and not the 1007.
Mhm. Okay, great. And yeah, and I guess Brian, it depends on the deal as well, because you could have a
Mhm.
really strong deal where you're making a lot more rental income than you're going to be paying for mortgage payments, and you know you'll have a higher DCR. Jumpstart, we look for 1.25. That's kind of our approval threshold.
Okay.
But we do know, Hurley, is that high to you?
It is. It is. It's a little high. I mean, there are lenders out there, not to put any shade on you. There's some lenders
No.
out there that do 1 and 1.1,
Okay.
just to qualify. But no, that 1.25 is a safe number. It's safe. It's just to make sure.
Yeah, we're conservative.
After the fact. That's why I said early on in this conversation, if you're looking for something that you want to hold on to, multi-units,
Right.
because it's going to debt service.
Right. Right. It really
You know,
comes
but
down to that one ratio where it's where you're making money.
yeah, I have a duplex and I'm charging 15 for each unit, but my
Right.
mortgage is only $1,200.
Right.
It debt services without even doing the math.
Right.
But if I have a single family and I'm trying to rent a single family and the rates are high right now, and I know my mortgage is 1,200, but I can only probably charge 1250,
Right.
it's not going to debt service.
Right. Great. Okay, thank you, Brian. And our next question is from Stacy. She said, "Are we going to get the presentation?" And yeah, like I said, I'll send out the slide that Hurley shared here tomorrow. Marquita asks, "I plan to use an LLC to make my real estate deals. Will banks such as Community First Fund look at my personal credit as well as my business credit?" That's a great question, Marquita.
Well, we're not going to look at your business credit. We'll look at you as a personal guarantor. Again, we're looking at a credit story. Yes, LLCs, S corps, holding companies. We'll look at all those things. Here's the weirdest thing, and this is going to make you laugh. Let's say, for instance, you started a nonprofit and you've got history with income with a nonprofit. In that instance, guess what? We're not looking at anybody's credit.
Nice. I like that.
Just telling you.
Yeah, that's how it
Just
goes.
putting it out there. Just putting it out there.
Great. All right. Thank you, Marquita. Lamar is wondering, can we have a recording of this webinar? Yep. So I'll mention that again in a minute. We're recording this, and I'll post it both as this, in the video format, and then I'll also make it into an audio only podcast in a couple weeks. But we'll give you more info on that in a second. And then Lamar and Stacy are wondering, does Community First Fund only lend to Philadelphia residents? Would you work with investors in Delaware?
Yes,
Great.
we will. Yep.
Gotcha. Not a city specific thing. Okay.
Well, it is. We have CDFI partners in Delaware, but we're working on loans in Delaware, Chester, pieces of Jersey. What we're geared towards we're working in low income areas.
Gotcha.
We're trying to help better those lower income areas. Our primary focus, to be honest with you, is the North Philadelphia area. That's our wall that we're working on. But I have 2 deals I'm working on in West Philadelphia right now.
Okay.
Cool. But as long as it fits the mission, yes,
Great.
we'll do it. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Sounds great. Well, that is all the Q&A questions we have, unless, right as I say that, one more came in. Brian says, what's your minimum loan amount and what's the minimum to highest unit count? Sorry. Oh, yeah. So I guess, what is the minimum loan amount? What is the range of units that you would finance? Do you finance new construction? And if so,
Yes.
and that new construction, is it LTC or LTV?
Well, I would say it's LTV for Community First. I'm still going to do my balance on it because I give you an example. I'm doing a new construction for a gentleman right now. Just put it into underwriting. Mm-hmm. Buying a lot for $75,000. Construction budget is $560,000. Now, the way we're getting that loan to value down is he's cross collateralizing a piece of property because the after repair value I'm saying is only $650,000. So if you do the math with $560,000 and $75,000, it's close. So we're not really worried about the loan to cost and LTV so much because we're cross collateralizing. So we're a bit of a hybrid of a lender. So if I can cross collateralize a property, I can lower the loan to value.
Gotcha. Great.
Yeah, so
Okay.
new construction, and I love new construction. I'll tell you why. Your budget is your budget. Your
Mhm.
budget doesn't change on new construction.
Yeah, yeah, I know. That's one of the things that's nice about those types of projects is it's if you're putting something up, you know when there's going to be a problem with it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Cool.
I hope that did I answer this question?
I believe so. I
Okay.
think just what is there a max like unit count or
No, I don't have a max unit. I'm doing a deal right now for 55 units. I don't do deals really under 500 to $1 million. I
Mhm.
don't do deals under that. I have made exceptions. If it's around 400,000, I can make an exception, but I
Yeah.
typically do 500,000 on to 15 to 5 million.
Okay, got it. And Charlene, last question here is: do you just do purchase only financing or cash out refinances as well for the exit strategy?
Well, that's the recommendation. There's really no other way to get out of it
Right,
unless you want to do a short sell it, which is a negative thing.
right.
So the exit is going to be to sell or refi. I can help you find a way out of any deal that you have. I can find a lender pretty much for anything.
Mhm.
I
Okay.
hope that answers it.
Yeah, got it. All right. Well, let's close up here, and that is all the Q&A. Thank you so much. And if there's any other questions, I'll keep an eye out as we go here. But
Okay.
thanks again so much, Hurley, for joining us. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us tonight. Any closing thoughts or things you want to say before we wrap up?
Guys, if you have any questions about anything, you got my email, drop me a line. I'll get back with you pretty much in the same day. I'll find a way if I don't know something, I'll find a way to get you the answer as well. But
Awesome.
whatever I know, I'll make sure you know.
Great. Thank you so much, Hurley. That's great.
My pleasure.
Last question again from Tanika. How seasoned does your nonprofit have to be in order to apply to Community First?
Well, I would say you want to see the nonprofit generate some type of income
Okay.
to have some kind of deposits happening. So 6 months can be good.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. All right, now I'm gonna take over screen sharing just for a
Oh,
second
you
so I
dropped
can
out.
show what we got coming up. This is actually our last JUMPinar of the year, so congrats Hurley on being our final guest. And our next JUMPinar will be just over a month from now in the second week of January. We're going to be talking to Alex Richardson, who is actually a speaker from our training program, and he's from American Bank, and he's going to be talking about financial literacy for commercial borrowers. So Hurley and I touched on it a little while ago, how complex and how involved commercial deals can be. So and we're going to be talking about what sorts of terms and things you should be aware of in those deals. And then when you can see our other two JUMPinars coming up. The one exciting thing is that this next one on January 18th will be in person, and that's our first JUMPinar in person in I think 3 years probably since 2.5 years since the beginning of the pandemic. We're really excited about that. So we'll be sending out plenty of information how you can attend, and it'll be at our office, 4701 Germantown Ave. So look out for a flyer and an RSVP for that event. And if you want to check out any of the other upcoming ones, just head down to jumpstartgermantown.com/events, and you can register there. And also, like we mentioned, the recording of this JUMPinar will be available at jumpstartgermantown.com/library. I'll get it up tomorrow afternoon, and then it'll be available as a podcast in a couple weeks, in case you want to share it with any friends or review it for anything you missed. But yeah, that's all I got. And one more time, thank you so much, Hurley. I appreciate
It's
it.
my
And
pleasure.
yeah, hope to talk to you soon.
Definitely. All right, guys. Have a great evening.
Have a good night, everybody.
All right.